The hay is in the barn for the Miami Dolphins and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's contract extension, but there was a lot of action at today's practice on Friday, July 26th. We're covering all that here today on Locked on Dolphins.
You are Locked on Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked on Dolphins. It's your team every day here on the Locked on Network. I'm your host, Cal Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked on Dolphins, co-host of Locked on NFL Scouting. You can find our shows on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Tip of the cap to our everydayers, because it is your team every day. We don't just say it, we live it here on the Locked on Network. Today's episode of Locked on Dolphins is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So, how's everybody's Friday afternoon? I trust there's nothing exciting happening other than the Dolphins striking the biggest contract in the history of the organization, giving their starting quarterback a contract extension that what allows the team in its entirety to put the contract saga behind them and allow them to focus on the task at hand, which is getting ready for the start of the 2024 season. That's all, casual. But today was a really entertaining practice for the Miami Dolphins, and that was the first thing that I had down. I had not only had my handy-dandy roster here today, I actually have my handy-dandy notebook of all of my written notes. And the first thing that I had was one-on-ones with a bunch of stars next to it, because the Dolphins did wide receiver DB one-on-ones. They did linebacker and tight end versus and running backs one-on-ones and pass coverage. They did offensive and defensive line one-on-ones. Kind of got down to the nitty-gritty of like the competition element of training camp instead of install. The first couple of days, it's kind of slow. You're conceptually introducing things. Not today. We dove right into this bad boy with some wide receiver corner one-on-ones and couple players that popped off in a big way on the defensive side of the ball. Also one on the offensive side of the ball I'll give some love to here. Jordan Brooks in coverage. He did get cooked one time by Jalen Wright on looked to be some kind of either an option or angle route out of the backfield that broke off and came back into the middle of the field. But Jordan Brooks had several plays where he was scraping horizontally and had to get into the catch radius of a defender or of a receiver and broke up a number of passes in today's one-on-one session. Again, that pass coverage capability for Jordan Brooks popped in a big way. I thought Jordan Poyer had himself a really nice day after kind of a vet rest day where he did some indie work, but not the team stuff. On Thursday, came back with a vengeance on Friday, had multiple PBUs and tight coverage. One of them was against Julian Hill on kind of an arrow return route over the middle of the field. So good seeing him kind of playing around the bigger body and have success attacking the football. So Jordan Poyer popped. The offensive skill player who popped the most to me was Jonnu Smith, in just seeing him moving in space at his size. It really is eye-opening how good the movement skills are for a player that's on the roster as a tight end, over 240 pounds. He's listed on the roster for Miami at 248. He moves good. He moves really good, and it's fluid too. So I think as long as you temper your expectations accordingly about whether he's going to be playing in line or whether he's going to be flexed in the backfield or whether he's going to be out in the slot, there's a variety of ways in which the Dolphins can utilize Jonnu Smith. And Mike McDaniel had a moment in today's press availability that took me back to an earlier press availability in the springtime when he talked about the addition of Jonnu Smith and when you catch drop seven, having a player who can create underneath with the ball in his hands and force missed tackles and has explosiveness to make you pay. And that was in reference to Jonnu Smith. Well, today, Mike McDaniel was asked about counters in your offense. And he mentioned if a team is going to play deep set coverage against you and everybody's going to be 30 yards downfield, you need to take advantage of the overcompensation by the defensive side of the ball and make them pay to take it out of it. He effectively said the entire ideology with offense is to attack their compensations accordingly. And it was in relation to being asked about, there's a big point of emphasis with guys like Tyreek Hill and Alec Ingold thus far in training camp about an extended ability or a more pronounced ability to possess the football and create long drives that are possessing the football as compared to being explosive play reliant. And Mike was asked about that when that was his answer. So he gives you that answer, and it made me think of, it's kind of like what he was saying with Jonnu Smith. And then you go out there and you watch Jonnu Smith at practice, and it's just the way that he moves. I'm buying the stock on Jonnu Smith. And Odell currently on PUP. We'll see what his recovery timeline looks like. Mike McDaniel did say this morning that was something that he came into camp with and has been kind of working his way back from since he signed a contract with the team. So there were no surprises from the Dolphins in that regard. But you consider Jonnu Smith, and then Devon Achane was the other guy in the passing game who made some big time. Like, he made one play where it was a leaping, and this was not an in the flat type of reception. This was a down the field type of reception in traffic to go up and attack the football and make a play on it. You look like one of the smaller guys that live on the perimeter for the Dolphins in their passing offense that plays wide receiver. So that was a really eye-opening play for me to see of Devon Achane make that kind of play here in OTA or in training camp, the first week of training camp. So those are some guys, skill players-wise, that popped to me, in addition to Jordan Brooks and Jordan Poyer, a couple of Jordans on the defense side of the ball. Jordans and Jalen's, right? You got the market cornered in those guys. Have some other thoughts, have some other notes on the other side of a sheet of paper here, which we're going to get into next. And then had a chance to talk a little bit with Kendall Fuller and get his thoughts on the versatility of this defense and the defensive backfield as a whole. And we're going to get into that as well. Next, here on Locked On Dolphins. Stick with us. Passion, drive, and patience are not just the formula for winning championships. It's what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP. And big home, huge dubs. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guarantee Fit available only to U.S. customers. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, this is, I think, the third training camp podcast that I've done. It's the first time I've come out of a break and remembered not to put my nameplate back up over at the Inside Dolphins training camp. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you're listening, you can watch us on YouTube. We did a live stream for the Tua news earlier today. And we'll get into Tua just a little bit. I kind of teased it when I did the breaking news for the contract extension, a 4-year, $212.4 million contract extension for Tua Tagovailoa puts him third highest APY amongst NFL quarterbacks with active contracts. I expect maybe by the time you watch or listen to this, it will be fourth, with Jordan Love and the Packers appearing to be on the doorstep of a contract extension of their own. But I digress. Kendall Fuller, I'll start here because I have the notes down. And then there was, in press availability, I had a chance to ask a few questions to Kendall Fuller. he had a really nice play. Transitional quickness has been kind of the central talking point of me talking about Fuller versus Xavier Howard and how they're different players and why he might be a better fit for this Dolphins system with the other players in the secondary. Miami tried to run a variation of a screen. I won't say anything other than that. But it was a play in which Fuller was in position from depth to watch and trigger an attack downhill. And he nearly beat the ball to the player in question that the screen was thrown to. And he very quickly laid off and he kind of just brushed right by him. But it would have been a very big collision in a live game setting. And it was not the first time since training camp kicked off, I go back to the first practice, where he had a moment where from depth with vision, trusts his eyes with quick stuff happening in front of his face, puts his foot in the ground, gets downhill, attacks the football, and had a splash play. So to see it with some consistency is it's like, dude, that's exactly what the selling point is for Kendall Fuller. So it's been great to see it on a number of different occasions thus far in camp. Now, he talked a little bit about the required versatility with Javon Holland being capable of moving around and Jalen Ramsey being capable of moving around, and was asked about him and his own exposures and being able to play inside and outside and how it's kind of prepped him for this role in this team because he's capable of playing everywhere. And he did the thing that a lot of corners do. He talked about the complexities of playing inside and making it a more challenging. He says he thinks playing inside is a more challenging position. He said there's more grass to cover. He told me that there's between more grass, having to make a decision faster. There's a level of physicality that's required that's not necessarily required on the perimeter. He said when you're outside, you kind of know what you're doing, right? Like you got a guy and you're just going to lock him up. If that's your assignment or if you're going to play from depth and deep zone coverage, you understand what your responsibility is. But when things are closer to the ball and closer to the core, it complicates and forces you to expedite your process, your decision-making process, and understand you don't have the sideline to help you either. So I thought it was cool to hear him kind of weigh into between all of the guys that are capable of moving around and understanding each other's roles within the defense, allowing you to overlap and compensate for your teammates, but also that being something when there's so much versatility, it kind of sets the table and sets the stage for you to move around more. And in turn, it helps you and everyone kind of further understand the entirety of the defense and its responsibilities. And that's a big part of, in theory, when you review what Mike Macdonald's defense was renowned for in Baltimore, it was the coaching of assignments, not necessarily, and concepts as a whole, not necessarily coaching a position. It's not in this call, you are doing this because you are this. It's in this call, these are the players with these are the alignments that are doing X responsibility, whether that's coming or dropping or playing man-to-man coverage or matching. And you can run that concept out of this personnel, this personnel, this personnel, and this personnel. And know with each one of those personnel groupings, a different guy might be responsible for doing the same thing. So to hear Kendall Fuller get into that, in addition to him living up to his reputation as a player, who his strengths you anticipated were going to be a desired new dynamic to the secondary, it's a strong start for Kendall Fuller to camp thus far. Tua Tagovailoa, I guess we can go here. I said this on the contract emergency podcast. I've been coming down for training camp for 4 years now. This was the best practice I've seen him have. And maybe it was the relief and the release of knowing that we were on the doorstep of getting a contract done. They had a video prepped. So I don't know if he went home from practice and recorded a video, or I don't know if he shot the video this morning, but like Goat Farm Media with Athletes First, like he dropped the video announcing his contract agreement. Like he broke it first. He broke his own news. This is kind of fun, but so I don't know that there's a correlation or causation there between those two things, but a number of big time throws. He had a play action pass to Tyreek Hill over top of Jalen Ramsey for a deep shot down the left sideline for what would have been a 70-yard touchdown. And it was really cool when that sequence was over. I happened to have my binoculars out, and I was looking at the huddle, and behind the huddle is Jalen Ramsey and Tua. And Jalen Ramsey comes up to Tua, and he daps him up, and you see Ramsey smiling and Tua smiling. And I see Jalen Ramsey go through the ball fake with the spin that Tua did, talking about his play fake on the play in question in which Tyreek got behind Jalen Ramsey. And I thought it was a really cool exchange between two of the leaders and more important players of the team on a play in practice where Tua got the better of Ramsey. The ball was perfectly placed. Tyreek ran right by him, but Ramsey comes over and like daps him up for the ball fake. And Tua kind of breaks down with his feet, and it looks like he's communicating, this is what I saw you do to decide to throw the ball. And so it was a big play moment like that, in addition to a number of other big shots, zone coverage, threading the needle, a couple of sideline throws that beat the safety to the sideline with velocity that were not 5 yards downfield. I mean, they were one was to the field and it beat the safety and got down. Probably more wow throughs. I remember the first 2021 year was rough, but 2022, like the first year of McDaniel in camp, there's probably like one wow play for Tua in every practice that I had attended. I can't remember one that had 5 or 6 wow throws on it, and he did. And it was to a bunch of different guys. It was to Achane, and Tua took all the reps with the ones, whether that was 7-on-7, 11-on-11, the individual period, like the one-on-ones to start practice he was throwing. Yeah, it was an emphatic, and it makes sense when you get the full picture and you leave practice or your finished player availabilities and you go to turn around and your phone dings and you look down and it's somebody who's been a source of information for me, and they're like, yo, heads up, look alive, this thing's coming. And that was about 12:30. News dropped around between 3 and 4. But it's like, oh, okay, yeah. He balled out today. Of course he did. There were some young guys that stood out. We're going to get into them next here on this episode of Locked On Dolphins. Make sure that you stick with us. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn helps find professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Gonna go back to the handy dandy notebook here. Sorry, I cannot. There are notes in here that are not advisable to report on per the NFL's reporting policies to non-public practices, so I cannot let you just read the notes. My sincerest apologies. Malik Washington had a nice catch today towards the very end of practice. It was in team. I believe Skylar Thompson threw the ball on that rep in general, but it was one of several receptions 20-plus yards downfield that came on or just inside the numbers that beat a high post safety. And that's what I am allowed to say about that in question. And Malik got up, extended away from frame, caught the football, got back down, scooted, beat the angle from the safety. It would have been a catch and run touchdown. Malik Washington, a really nice play in that regard. I thought Grayson Murphy had a nice play or had a nice practice as far as just his presence on the edge. I think what's overlooked here, he's been a pretty productive pass rusher. And every time I look up, he's getting reps. And some of that is, if you heard that, that was the keyboard that squeaked. I will not stand for flatulence accusations on this podcast anymore. I got attacked yesterday for the leather chair. Murphy's been a productive player in college, despite being a UDFA. There's some measurable questions there. Not the longest guy, not the heaviest guy, not the guy with the most powerful hands. But he's getting a lot of run, and he's keeping his head above water. So depending on what your health and availability is of your standout guys and the Shaq Barrett retirement and Emmanuel Ogbah maybe being a player who's more not a standout player, and there is some stand-up responsibilities you see on the edge, that's of interest to me. Maybe he can find an opportunity to start the season. I think about some of the other young guys of note. Chop Robinson had a couple of really nice pass rushes. He converted speed to power on one time, turned another really tight angle for a disruptive play. And then you had, as we mentioned earlier, the Jalen Wright route out of the backfield that cooked Jordan Brooks. It was a really nice job kind of selling out, and he came back inside. So it's one of those things where you want to kind of get up on the toes of the defender and sell one way and break another way. And Jalen Wright doing that kind of expands how you're intrigued. And obviously you have to put the pads on and see what they look like in pass protection. That's such a big part about running backs getting on the field early. But he comes to the NFL with a pretty high regard for his pass protection skills. If he could expand that to some passing game stuff, that's where you get interested. As far as second-year guys, we mentioned Devon Achane making a leaping catch, acrobatic catch. Cam Smith also had a nice PBU and sticky coverage against Jalen Waddle on a comeback route on the far side, on the right sideline. That showcased some really good reach. The ball was a little high. Jalen had to leave his feet to try to catch it, and Cam extended and had a really nice job of providing a disruptive presence at the catch point as well. Patrick Paul, another young guy. I've kind of had a lot of eyes on the young guys as far as their reps early thus far in camp, and a little bit up and down as far as the consistency of staying attached on guys. But he had a couple of really nice pass sets, including one on Chop Robinson where he just absolutely stonewalled him and forced Chop to gear all the way back down and break down, but stop his feet to try to break down the Patrick Paul pass set. So in all, this was Miami's best practice this week. There was offensive wins. There was defensive wins. The efficiency of the offense was back. The explosive elements of the offense reared their head today in practice as well. And I'm really fascinated to see how they catapult and springboard that into the public practices that come starting on Sunday. The team is off tomorrow. You might get a show tomorrow. We'll see. To be determined. But plenty of action coming your way here in Miami Gardens. So we'll have you covered here on Locked On Dolphins. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I appreciate you guys checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. Go Dolphins. I'm out of here.